Welcome to part two. Ting Toomey and Chung define culture as values, beliefs, practices, and norms. In essence, these three ideas create bodies of culture for us. For example, values include the innermost feelings, desires, ethics, or morals of individuals and groups. These are things that we hold dear to ourselves, things that aren't necessarily seen but help to guide the way we act in the world around us. Now, these values inform our beliefs. Beliefs are ideas about the world or about social phenomenons. What's important to us is guided by our beliefs, and what we think about those things are guided by our beliefs. Now, practice would be the actions that result from values and beliefs. These include what we do on a daily basis or in our regular routines. For example, fasting is quite different from simply missing a meal when you consider the presence of cultural values and beliefs. We oftentimes see conflict based on our cultural values and beliefs. Thus, our practices result from and represent those particular values and beliefs. Now, Hopson, in 2011, describes culture in this way: as lived, thought, and performed. Live would be surface level characteristics. This might be information that we use on an application for a job or for school registration. Things such as race or gender or address or other forms of social identity create the lived dimension of culture. Next, we have thought. Now, thought aligns with Ting Toomey and Chung's idea of beliefs. Thought would be what we're taught to believe while growing up. This could be what we're taught about religion, what we're taught about gender, what we're taught about race and rules. This would also include expectations for life and living. These things are as varied as we are in terms of being people. Our beliefs are oftentimes guided by what we're taught. Scholars suggest that these are the results of a hegemonic force. For example, if we were to stop at a stop sign when no one is around, we're not necessarily doing it because the stop sign has jumped out and demanded that we stop. We do it because we understand there's an expectation for us to stop. And so we don't need to be reminded other than for the stop sign. Well, that same rule applies with social roles. Oftentimes, boys are taught how to be males and girls are taught how to be females. We do this through color coordination, athletic events, and other ways of rewarding appropriate expectations and appropriate roles. Last, we have the performance of culture. This is everything that we do which would reflect culture as lived in thought. So we would dress in a certain way, or we use certain language. We would act according to culture as lived in thought. Oftentimes, our performance of culture represents our families or ethnic groups or regions or even national identity. These are all very important factors. All of these things create perceptions of culture. And whether or not we recognize it, culture matters. Now, intercultural communication consists of these different perceptions within bodies of culture during interaction. In other words, intercultural communication would be bringing together bodies of culture, bringing together those different values, beliefs, and practices. These are dynamic interactions between bodies of culture. There is no one way of doing things or seeing the world. As you can see from the model, we have a sender and a receiver who are joined by a message. But if you will, imagine all the things that might impact that message. All of our perceptions about the sender or the receiver, be it stereotypes, be it bias, be it similarities or difference. All of these things contribute to the way in which that message achieves its goal or not. Sometimes differences create noise, and noise would be anything that intrudes or impacts the effects of the message. Noise can be feedback or context or even the channel itself, but noise might include bias and stereotypes, fear, even prejudice. Anything that interferes with the receiver's ability to hear and make sense of the message could be considered noise. Now, the responsible intercultural communication professional will acknowledge the intercultural communication model. This professional keeps consciousness and awareness of the issues that matter. The professional considers perceptions of social identity and difference and understands that everyone carries their own perceptions and that perceptions are informed by our ideas about the world around us. Also, responsible intercultural communication professionals consider the diverse values and beliefs and practices that are included within multicultural or diverse bodies of culture. Each of us has a different set of values, beliefs, and practices, and we should understand that this reveals or limits the potential for healthy intercultural communication. Last, the responsible intercultural communication professional understands that mindfulness is ongoing. This is an ongoing practice of reflection or thoughtful, intentional listening concerning our perceptions of culture and concerning our perceptions of one another. The professional uses this knowledge to contribute to the health and well-being of the world around himself or herself. The professional also understands that these ideas are necessary to move past unconscious incompetence towards a more conscious and competent way of dealing with intercultural issues. Now, takeaways, or as I might call them, challenges or critical observations to change the world around you for the better. We use concluding reflection questions to explore our own biases. So first, I ask you, how do your own perceptions impact your work? How do your values, your beliefs, and even your practices impact your personal or your professional performance? Next, how do public perceptions impact your work? How do the cultural perceptions or the cultural lenses that are used to view you and your organization, how do those impact the work that you do on a daily basis? And last but not least, how can you use this information about culture to be a more responsible communicator? These are critical questions, and the answers aren't easy, but I implore that you ask yourselves these questions over and over. In conclusion, my name is Mark Hopson. I'm Associate Professor of Communication within the Department of Communication here at George Mason University. I invite you to explore the material presented here to help you contribute to your own foundations for understanding intercultural communication. It's important that we use this information to contribute to the health and well-being of the world around us.